Laozi, My Way. Chapter 4. The Way of the Law. My way led me to the Beixiao Mountains. The first summer month is here, and we already have a nice mess. It is so warm that I want to walk naked through the terrain. At least the time of freezing for the next month is over. But this miserable heat is no real pleasure. But the weather can never quite please me anyway. It is claimed that in the first months of summer, the foresters are ordered to travel through the regions and plains to cheer on the peasants and admonish the people not to let time pass by unused. It is also claimed that the Minister of Education is ordered travel around the towns and villages in order to stop the peasants from working hard and to prevent them from roaming the towns. This month, the wild animals are being chased away so that they do not damage the grain, but no big hunts are to take place. All this is claimed about the first summer month. 300 miles north of the Goyu Mountains and 350 miles south of the Liangqiu Mountains rises the Beixiao Massif, in today's Lingqiu district in Shanxi province. There are relatively few rocks here. Jasper is extracted on the northern slopes and jade on the southern slopes. Here lives a whole white animal called dugu, which looks like a tiger but has a head like a dog, a tail like a horse, and hair like a pig. Its thick and long fur protects it from the low temperatures. In summer, however, the coat is much shorter than in winter. Underneath it there is a layer of fat up to 5 centimeters thick on the belly and flanks, which additionally helps it to survive extreme cold. The dugu normally lives as a loner, marks its territory with urine and scratch marks, and is predominantly nocturnal. Its prey is deer, pigs, and roe deer. With its strong body, it can carry very heavy prey over long distances to eat or store in a quiet place. The dugu spends a lot of time hunting because only a small part of its attacks are successful. Such an attack begins with sneaking up on the prey. If it has come close enough, it jumps with a huge leap from behind on the victim in order to hit its canines in its neck. With its hind legs, it stands firmly on the ground to push the animal down. Larger animals are killed afterwards with a throat bite. Smaller loot animals already die at the injuries in the neck. The bird banmao also lives here, a collared owlet that looks like a crow and has a human face. It sleeps during the day and flies at night. Its plumage is brown-yellow striped, its back somewhat darker. It is 14 to 17 centimeters tall and has a yellow iris. Its food includes mice and young birds, which it also likes to fetch from the nests. Occasionally, the colored owlet also searches the bark of the trees for insects. Its female lays 3 to 5 eggs at the end of spring. It is used successfully to treat fever. These mountains are the source of the Tin River, which flows into Lake Mangtse in an easterly direction. Up here it is still a brook into which I throw pebbles. They make such a calming plop while diving in. And again I am disturbed, this time by Mr. Han, who has the nerve to pretend in his Laozi work that he is commenting on my thoughts. Greetings, old master. What a stupid address. Why don't you leave me alone and dedicate yourself to your works? So you've heard of it then? I've heard more than you can imagine, even if it sometimes seems more like a burden to me. I want to hear your opinion on my comments. Oh yes? And if I have no opinion to the nonsense? Don't be so grumpy. I've heard you're quite nice. Stop sucking yourself up. That makes me really grumpy. You're also only a thief of strange thoughts. Why that then? From Mr. Shang you have stolen the use of laws with intensive application of punishment and reward. This is an important approach to good government. From the first Mr. Shen you have stolen the method of political action. I borrowed the thought. And from the second Mr. Shen you have stolen the exercise of power. The exercise of power is a fact of experience. And don't get caught up in it. Do you actually know the following proverb from old times? Governing is like washing hair. Lose hair in the process, but you have to do it. In old times there were no empty sayings. A wise man from ancient times spoke, "One does not stumble over a mountain, but over an anthill." But it's important to me to describe the right way to rule. Not to me. Ruling is a mistake in itself. But without ruling it doesn't work. Who says that? I. And I will gladly give you an example of exemplary ruling. Please do not. Yes, yes. Exemplary ruling requires a clear-sighted ruler. I had already feared something similar. The way of a clear-sighted ruler now corresponds to the answer Mr. Yu gave Mr. Fu. What is that supposed to mean? If a clear-headed ruler listens to speeches, he praises eloquence. Perhaps he should better stop the gossip. If he observes behavior, he appreciates its consequences. That sounds very impressive. That is why ministers, officials, and the people respond to all circumstances in their fundamental speeches and go into depth. In their personal behavior, they move away from the common world. Maybe they shouldn't do that. Mr. Tian answers the King of Ying like this. Mr. Mo makes consecrations out of wood, and the singer Gui builds the Wu Palace like this. Medicine or practical words, clear-sighted rulers understand it. And what does that have to do with the answer Mr. Yu gave Mr. Fu? Mr. Fu administered the city of Shanfu. What insignificant Dullsville. Maybe, but that doesn't matter here either. Mr. Yu visited him and asked, "What are you so emaciated of?" Mr. Fu replied, "The Lord has ignored my inactivity and ordered me to administer this city. I'm stressed and worried about my official duties, and that's why I am emaciated." He would probably have done better to give up his office. But he didn't. Mr. Yu replied, "Once a legendary ruler Shun struck the 5-string zither, sang the song of the south wind, and all the world was well ordered. You are worried about the administration of this unimportant city? What if you had to rule the whole world? If you have a strategy to control the world, then you sit up in the hall, have the complexion of a virgin, and yet it's not detrimental to the government. If you don't have a strategy to control the world, then you can personally spend and lose weight, and it still brings no benefit. So it's all just a question of the right strategy." That's it. Well, great. Then you can disappear again now. First, I'll tell you another joke. Even that still, please spare me. Absolutely not. A man from Zheng wanted to buy shoes. He measured his foot at home, but forgot it when he went to the market. There he found shoes he wanted to buy. But since he had forgotten the measure, he went back home to get it. When he returned to the market, it was already over and he could not get any more shoes. Someone asked, "Why didn't you try them on?" He answered, "I'd rather believe the measure than myself." You really don't know mercy. I still have an anecdote. Why doesn't anyone help me? A farmer from Song had found a precious stone and wanted to offer it to Mr. Han. Mr. Han did not accept it. And the farmer said, "This is a treasure, an instrument for a noble gentleman like you, and not for a little man like me." Mr. Han answered, "For you the gemstone is a treasure. For me, the non-acceptance of the gemstone is a treasure." This is a good example of the old master's demand: desire not to desire, and do not overestimate goods that is difficult to obtain. The old master asks you to disappear. I still have an anecdote. Is there no end to it at all? A farmer from Song ordered his field with an old tree stump in the middle. A hare ran over the field at high speed, banged against the tree stump, and broke its neck. The farmer then gave up the order of his field and preferred to wait for the next stupid hare. But such a hare never came, and he was mocked by the people in Song. But if you want to rule the people of the present with the methods of the past, then you behave exactly like this farmer. I already said I'm not interested in your views on rulery. What a pity. Isn't the way an inexhaustible vessel? as abysmal as the ancestors of all things? What is this now? Does he not soften their sharpness? Does he not solve their confusion? Does he not temper their splendor? Does he not unite himself with their dust? You are talking mad. Is he not deep, and yet how real? Whosoever son he is, he seems to be earlier than the heavenly ruler. But now it is really enough. Why are you only so stubborn and unreasonable? I am neither stubborn nor unreasonable. There you have the proof. If you don't disappear now, I won't throw the pebbles into the water anymore, but at your napper. Nobody said you could get so aggressive. Now get the fuck out of here and tell the world what an asshole I am. I guess you really don't want to comment on my comments. The first sentence. Then I must walk off my way with unachieved things. Yes, yes. Too bad. This poor man also finds a bad end. An apparent friend defames him. He is thrown into prison and forced to commit suicide. There he goes, and I cannot and will not save him either. I see him disappear in the distance and finally have my peace again. I use it to throw pebbles into the stream again, lost in thought. They make such a calming plop while dipping.